Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is just Give Me Anger, Not Guilt, whatever that looks like. And so I think oftentimes we become really focused on the fact that we believe that we're not supposed to be angry. And biblically it does say be slow to anger, but it doesn't say you're not allowed to become angry. Because in fact, where your anger lies is data for you. And so if we are able to determine that something is data, as opposed to becoming angry with ourselves for even feeling the emotion, it helps us to uncover where that emotion is coming from and the parts of us that we either need to heal, grow, study more, research more, get with ourselves and really sit in more. And when we just push that emotion to the side, when we just dismiss the emotion and don't permit the emotion to exist, it doesn't go away. In fact, anger is very much buildable. So when we stuff anger, it stays there, but then there's more anger, and that anger builds on top of that anger, and you've seen people explode because of how much anger they have inside of them. But the anger isn't the seed in which that explosion started in. The emotion that the first emotion, because that anger is a secondary emotion, the emotion that started it all is the thing that needs to be seen, navigated, nurtured, so that the anger doesn't persist. It doesn't mean the anger won't exist, but it won't persist. So we've heard all of this messaging when we're children, when we're in church. Oftentimes when we're in church, it's not every time we're in church. I don't want to give the church a bad name because it teaches us a lot of really good things, but that anger is bad or dangerous. And because we've heard that as children, most of the time we believe it to be true. And not only do we believe it to be true, but we then perpetuate it in our own children or the people around us. So we make them feel guilty for getting angry. We add to the chaos of their anger by also getting angry because they're angry while telling them they shouldn't get angry. So when we see children throwing temper tantrums and there's anger there, we get mad at them for the anger. So we're showing them anger in a reaction to their anger, but we never truly use it as data to say, whoa, that's a big reaction to something that feels really small. I wonder what's going on underneath of that. Oftentimes my son gets very angry when he is frustrated and tired, which I'm gonna say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there, because that's what happens to me. That's usually when my anger comes to the surface, when I'm frustrated and when I'm tired. But I know that for me, when I'm frustrated and when I'm tired, it usually is me being incapable of asking for help. And so my anger is not because I'm frustrated or tired. My anger is because I'm frustrated and tired and I don't have any help to hand those things over to. So I still have to do them. So now I feel resentful, and that resentment shows up as anger. Now for him, when he's frustrated and when he's tired, it usually means he hasn't had enough time in his day to be able to have control over something. So I'm tired of doing what people are asking me to do, and I'm frustrated because people keep asking me to do stuff, and I haven't had enough time to make any choices for myself. So oftentimes when that's happening with him, I'll give him some choices. Okay, so right now I see that you're frustrated, and would you rather do this or this? Like, would you rather do your homework right now, or do you want to wait until like 6 and give yourself a little time to relax first? To me, there's no real threat in that. We have the ability to make that happen. Now, on soccer days, we don't have the ability to make that happen. So sometimes I have to tell them, you're going to have to push through in anger at this point, because we got to get this stuff done and we got to go to soccer practice. But for the most part, I know that when I start to sense that emotion coming up in him, it is data for me to say, okay, he's not been able to control most of his day and he's getting frustrated. And we can do that same thing for ourselves. Where's the anger coming from? And why is it existing in the first place? Because it's a secondary emotion attached to something. So I got to figure out where it's coming from. And when we treat it like it is not permissible for it to be there, then not only are we stuffing the anger, but we're also not nurturing the seed that planted it in the first place. And anger has a role. It gives us the data that says, I got to set a boundary around this thing. Because when this thing happens, it makes me real mad. And every time I get real mad, then it derails my whole day. It derails my relationship with this person, whatever it is. And I need to set a boundary around it. There are some people in life who like to guilt you when they didn't do the thing that they were accountable to do. So they're like, why didn't you tell me? Or why didn't you send me a text? Or why didn't you answer my call when I called you? Why does it take you so long to answer my text messages? And they place the accountability onto you to make them feel seen. That makes me angry because your girl is busy. I don't have time to do that. I have time to nurture our relationship, yes. But I don't have time to always answer your text message, always answer your phone calls, always be available to you. Don't make meaning of it by saying that I don't love you or prioritize you. Just in this moment, I don't have time to do that. I have kids to get places and do things for, etc. And so I know that that anger is telling me I need to set a boundary there. That anger could also be telling me that I need to trust my intuition in a space that feels unsafe or that I feel unseen. And so anger is data. You can ask yourself, is there intuition that I'm feeling about this person or the scenario that's making me angry? Or is this data telling me something about me? When my son gets angry on the soccer field, I'm using him as an example because he is so calm and so considerate and so compassionate for 90% of the day. But then there's that other part of the day where he gets real mad real quick. And most of the time, I'm the person that he takes it out on, and I realize why, because I'm really safe for him. So I try to focus on how I can help him work through it so that his 8-year-old self learns the coping mechanisms so that his 28-year-old self isn't lashing out at people. So when he gets angry on the soccer field because, I'm telling him to do something or I don't do the thing the way that he wants me to do it or however it is because it's soccer and he knows way more about it than I do, instead of being like, okay, I'm done, I'm not playing with you anymore, I'm like, I can sense you're getting angry. Is there something you need me to do or not do? Or is there something that you want to do instead of what we're doing so that he can have some control over the situation? Because soccer is his jam. It's not mine. I don't really care if he runs the drills that I'm giving him. I just want him to be out there practicing for 20 minutes a day, which he does. And so oftentimes that is an indication to me that there's something underneath of there. And so when we go to therapy and when we work with the therapist, she quite often says his job is to notice the warning signs before it gets to that point. And my job is to notice what it's connected to. And so I would say that for yourself, that same thing is true. You have to notice your warning signs when it's close to getting to that point so that you can be like, I feel myself getting angry. What's going on with me here? Giving yourself the data to understand that something is going on. And you also need to understand when it gets to that point, what is it usually connected to? What is the usual emotion that you're covering with the anger that exists? Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, your anger is covering up your grief, your fear, or your hurt. So maybe you're grieving something and that thing that's happening right now is triggering that grief in you. Maybe you're grieving the childhood that you didn't have and you're getting angry now because something is reminding you of that void. Maybe you're grieving a person in your life and what's happening right now is reminding you of the fact that that loss exists for you. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're afraid that you might fail, and so you get angry because somebody's asked you to do something that you feel like you could potentially fail at. Or maybe you're afraid that somebody's going to be able to see you in your vulnerable state, and that anger is showing up as fear that they'll see you in your vulnerability. Or maybe you're hurt that somebody doesn't think that you're important enough to do the task that they have, and they keep dumping it onto you because they think it's just easier for you to do it because you make it look easy. And so you feel hurt underneath of there. Most of the time when anger comes up, you can ask yourself, am I grieving something? Am I afraid of something? Or did this hurt me a little bit? And you can figure out why the anger feels so big, not just to get rid of the anger, but to nurture the emotion that led to the anger in the first place. So there are times where you might feel like you're right in being angry. Like you should be mad about this thing because this thing would enrage anyone. And I'm not saying that you don't have the right to feel angry. You have a right to feel it. But you also owe yourself the opportunity to figure out when that anger is masking something underneath. And so I told you this story before, but there was a time in relationship where something was said and I got frustrated, and when I get mad, I cry, and it's usually because it's attached to something like sadness or fear or whatever it is. And so something was said and I cried and I got frustrated. And of course, you know, in relationship, the person that I experience relationship with is very much apologetic. And I'm like, no, it's not you. It was me. Like you said something that should not have made me angry. And now I feel myself getting angry and I don't even understand why I'm getting angry. So I need a minute to sit with whatever this is to figure out why this is a me problem, because I know this is not a you problem. And I know this is not an us problem. I know that this is a me problem. And now I got to figure out why. And so when I sat with it, I realized that the thing that he had said, I made meaning out of it, which wasn't even close to his intention. And because I made meaning out of it, I was like, this is what you were saying. And it's not even close to what he was saying. And then I found myself getting angry and sad because he had struck a chord that was a fear for me. And all of this was around body image. And he never even said anything about my body. It's kind of ridiculous for me to even go where I went. But because I have that wound around body image, and because I've had, you know, family who was so ugly to me about my body image my entire life, then there was this piece of me that was like, oh, okay, he's doing it too. So now I'm going to get mad because everybody in my life has created this problem for me. Instead of being like, whoa, he didn't say that. Why are you angry? You're angry because you're grieving something that was created for you in childhood. You're angry because you're afraid that maybe he sees you the way that you felt like your family sees you. And you're sad because the little girl in you wants to be able to exist without being judged. And so that's going to show up as anger. When we give ourselves the opportunity to process that, instead of letting our anger run wild in the streets, but instead say, I'm going to process why this exists, you can still feel angry. And you can still say, you know, this is why that happened, but I also need you to be really careful when you talk like this, because sometimes that brings up a trigger in me. And it's not your responsibility to hold any space for that trigger, but because he is the way that he is, he wants to know those things. So I communicated that with him. Hey, let's just not say that again. And he didn't. And so you are responsible for accepting all the pieces of you that are planting those seeds that need to be nurtured. You are responsible for nurturing those seeds. But if you miss one, and perhaps anger grows from those seeds, and you miss that there's grief, sadness, anger, or not anger, but fear underneath of that anger, then it is your job to say, hold up, anger's here. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I got to figure that out so that you don't bleed that anger on to everybody else. It's the reason why I don't believe in the hurt people. And then people are like, well, hurt people don't hurt people. Because I didn't hurt people when I was hurt. That's because healed people help people. And hurt people do hurt people, because hurt people become angry people, and that anger bleeds onto everyone else. But healed people know what to do with their hurt, know what to do with their anger, so that it doesn't hurt other people, but so that they're able to help people, help them understand how to navigate this relationship with them, help them to not be as angry as they are, help them to be able to nurture their emotions, etc. So the next time you're angry, pause and get curious. Ask yourself, what is underneath of this anger? And what is that anger trying to protect? Because most of the time, there's a pain there that anger wants to try to conceal. And so when it shows up, you don't have to actually deal with the thing that's underneath of it. But if we deal with it, then the anger doesn't show up so large. So use your anger as data. Don't try to push it away. Don't become shameful because you feel anger, because everyone feels it. Some people are just more capable of tending to it, while other people are confining it or letting it roam free. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this message was helpful to you. Please like and subscribe to this page. Go ahead and follow me on all social media sites. And remember that knowledge gained and kept to yourself is selfish, but knowledge shared with the world could just be the catalyst that they need to break free from the pain that they're experiencing. Share this message. Make sure that you share it on your pages. Make sure that you send it directly to people, because you never know what battles people are fighting and what could just be the video or the message that they need to hear to help them through those stages. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.